All right. So in 5.1, we did integration, basic, straightforward integration. Add one, divide by it, add one, divide by it. We worked that out. We talked about our special cases. Now, what if that doesn't work? What if it's harder? When we did derivatives, we had quotient rule. We had product rule. We had chain rule. And you're like, oh no, we're going to do that again? No. We don't have those for integration. But what we do have is something called integration by substitution. Okay? So the question is, how do we deal with the harder ones? How do we deal with the harder ones? It kind of goes back to chain rule. But the best way to do this is to actually go back and do some examples. Okay? So I'm going to go through some examples nice and slowly, and then we're going to talk about each one. They're showing you in the notes that there's some special setups where if it looks exactly like this, you can figure out the answer. If it looks exactly like this, you can figure out the answer. Those are nice to know, but I'd rather show you the way to do all of them. Okay? So here's our nice and slow. Please ask questions, but I'm telling you, with enough practice, it will click. With enough practice, it will click. Okay? So first of all, my question to you is this a straightforward, basic integral? Can I just simply add one and divide by it? Just by looking at it, does it look like an easier one or a harder one? It looks like a harder one. Why? I have two things being multiplied. I have stuff cubed. It's not an easy one. It's not like a straightforward add one, divide by. Is everybody clear that this is a harder one? Okay? So when it's the harder one, this is what you do. So you look at it, you identify it's a harder one, here's what you do. The idea, it's going to take some practice, we're going to go super slow. The idea is that right now it's hard. If I can somehow rewrite it to make it easier, life will be easier. And we do that with U substitution. U substitution says, let's take something harder, and with the right U substitution, it will be easier. So here's how we do it, nice and slowly. Number one, you pick something to be your U. U in this case is going to be x to the fifth minus 2. Now, your very first question is going to be, how did you know that? Number one, I've done a million of these. That's how I knew right away that's what it was going to be. So let's finish it. And after we do a couple of them, you'll start seeing why that's the U. But I'll give you some clues along the way. Number one, if I make that U, will life be easier? So for example, instead of x to the fifth minus 2, if I change all of that to U, do you know the integral of U to the third? What's the integral of U to the third? U to the fourth over 4, right? So if I make all of that U, will it make my life easier? Yes, that's one clue that that's a proper U. Now, I need to change everything to U. So step 2, take the derivative of U with respect to x. And that's just really fancy to say, take the derivative of U. What's the derivative of U? What's the derivative of x to the fifth?
5x.
5x to the fourth. And what's the derivative of negative 2? 0. Stop there. Any questions so far? Okay? Now, my job is going to be substituting in. Instead of x to the fifth minus 2, I'm going to put u. Okay with me? Do you see up there a du over dx? Anywhere up there, is there a du over dx? No. But what is up there? A dx. So I have to solve this for dx. Algebra again. It's okay. You can do it. Okay? All I'm going to do, it's the same algebra over and over again. I'm going to put this over 1. When you have a proportion, how do you solve a proportion? Cross multiply. So dx times 5x to the fourth equals du times 1, which is du. Any questions on how I did that? Then, how do you get rid of, I want dx by itself, how do you get rid of times 5x to the fourth? Divide by 5x to the fourth, divide by 5x to the fourth. You get dx equals du over 5x to the 4th. Now, I'll give you a little idea, a little hint. This is what we get when we get the derivatives. And when I solve for dx, it will always be dx equals du over the derivative. It will always be dx equals du over the derivative. Are we okay? Always. Always ends up like that. Okay? Now, you're probably thinking, you're making this a lot harder than it is. Well, give me a minute. Right now, we have this integral, and it's not a straightforward one, and I don't know how to do it. The question is, if I do the right substitutions, I'll make it easier. So, what am I going to put instead of x to the 5th minus 2? U. That looks a little bit easier. I don't have anything for 5x to the 4, but instead of dx, what am I going to put? Du over 5x to the 4. Now, those are my substitutions. And right now, you're going to look at me and you're going to say, you've just made it worse. Before we had x's, now we have x's and u's. You've actually made it harder. Take a second look. If you take a second look, what happens? 5x to the 4th and the 5x to the 4th on the bottom, what happens? They turn to 1. We say cancel, but 5x to the 4th divided by 5x to the 4th is 1. So wait a minute. With the correct u, I'm only left with u to the 3rd du. I took something that was very complicated, and with the right u substitutions in my steps, now I'm left with right here. Are we okay? Take a second. Let that absorb. And a very important question that people mess up on a lot, and I have to take a lot of points off for this. So have I taken the integral yet? No. I've set it up. Now take the integral. What's the integral of u to the 3rd? U to the 4 over 4. Don't forget your plus c. And does that seem like a final answer? Is my final answer going to be u or x? X. So my very last step is, where there's a u, what am I going to put instead? X to the 5th minus 2 to the 4th over 4 plus c. That is u substitution. That is u substitution. And all it is, this is the first time you've seen it. We're going to do a ton of examples today. But the idea is that you start with something complicated. With the right substitutions, you can take the integral then. Are we okay? It's only one strategy. There's other strategies you'll learn in other calculuses. But for us, that's the only, if it's a hard one, you do this. Use substitution. Are we okay? So before we move on, go back to your first question. How did I know that was going to be u? 2 reasons. Number 1, it should make your life easier. I don't know how to take the integral of stuff cubed. So if I make all that stuff u, will it make my life easier? Yep. Number 2, a little trick. The trick is, when you take the derivative, what did you get? 5x to the 4. What did it do to the 5x to the 4? So if you pick the right u, it makes your life easier, and the derivative makes your life easier. That's how you know you're on the right track. That's how you know you're on the right track. Okay? So any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay? So if you're a little shaky, no problem. You're on the right track. Okay? Here's another one. Again, nice and slowly. That's all we're going to do today is use substitution. Okay? So here's your problem. First of all, looking at the problem, is this an easier one or a harder one? It's definitely a harder one. Why? I have 2 things being multiplied. I have e to something. It's not just e to the x. It's e to something. We need to figure this out. So right off the bat, can we all agree that this is going to be u substitution? Okay? Now you've only seen one example. You've only seen one. But I'd like you to take a guess. Don't say it out loud. If you had to guess of everything up there, anything could be u, what would u be? Don't say it out loud. Write down, give it a guess. If you have to pick what u is going to be, what would it be? Number one, it should make your life easy. Number two, the derivative should make your life easy. So take a guess. Only the second time you've ever seen this. What do you think u is going to be? Don't say it. Write it down. You can make anything you want u, but only one u will work. It should make your life easier, and the derivative should make your life easier. Okay? So, what do you think? What should u be? Say it. The whole thing, e to the x to the third? Possible, but if I try to take the derivative of that, it's going to get real ugly. What else? 3x squared. Possibly, but what's the derivative of 3x squared? 6x. Is that going to help me with this? Nope. Nope, not e. It's funny, you're picking everything except the right answer. X to the third. Okay, now again, you tried, you guessed, fantastic. At least you tried. And here's the deal. Like, what if I picked the wrong u? You go through the work and it doesn't work, you erase it, and you go back and fix it. Can you do it wrong? Okay? I'm not going to do it wrong. I'm going to do it the right way. But you may pick the wrong u sometime and it just won't work. But when you pick the right u, it will work. Let me show you. Number one, I have no idea how to take the integral of e to the x cubed. I don't know. But if it was e to the u, what's the integral of e to the u? E to the u. So did it make my life easy? Number one. Number two, let's take the derivative of u with respect to x. What's the derivative of u? 3x squared. Oh, 3x squared. 3x squared. Will that probably help me later? Yeah. Starting to see the connections now? It takes practice, right? But there is no du over dx up there. So let's see if we can use the shortcut real quick. What is dx going to equal? du over 3x squared. Now, again, I will do the algebra one more time. But after that, I want you to see the shortcut. The algebra is, this is over 1, cross multiply, du equals dx times 3x squared, then divide by 3x squared, divide by 3x squared, you get dx equals du over 3x squared. Can we save this work because we understand it and go from here straight to here? It's always going to be dx equals du over the derivative because it's the same algebra over and over and over again. Cross multiply, solve for dx. Are we okay? Now, I want to give you guys a little more each time. So all I want you to do right now, don't solve it, don't finish it. All I want you to do is make the substitutions. All I want you to do is make the substitutions. Right below it, make your u and your du substitutions. Just do the substitution. Okay, if we do the substitution correct, you should have e to the u, the 3x squared stays, but instead of dx, we have du over 3x squared. Stop there. Did everyone see how I got those substitutions? Instead of x cubed, I put u. I don't have anything for 3x squared, but instead of dx, I put du over 3x squared. Does everyone see that? Does everyone see how I got that? Okay? Now, what ends up happening? The 3x squared and the 3x squared divide into 1. So I'm left with the integral of e to the u du. Stop there. Does everyone see how I got that? Have I taken the integral? No, be careful. I'm telling you on the test, you'll lose like half credit or whatever on quiz and all that stuff. You'll lose because you're not done yet. What's the integral of e to the u? E to the u, don't forget your plus c. Is that a final answer when it has u? So instead of u, what am I going to put? X to the third. Stop there. Look at the problem from top to bottom. Any questions? So use substitution. Again, this is only the second one. And some of you light bulbs are going off. You can see the connections. The more we do, the better you'll get at this. It's just going to take some practice. Okay, ready for another one? Wait, the answer is always yes, because they've got a lot more to go. Okay? Next one. The integral of 1 over 1 plus x to the 4 times 4x to the third dx. Again, take a minute. Just try your best to see if you can figure out what u is going to be. It's going to make your life easier, and the derivative will make your life easier. Okay. What's u going to be? If I did x to the 4th, not a bad idea, but then you're going to have 1 plus u on the bottom. That doesn't make my life super easy. So what should u be? The entire bottom. Because then I'll have 1 over u. That's a lot easier to deal with. Now, I want you to do the next step. Take the derivative of u with respect to x, and then get dx by itself. Okay, so if we do this correctly, what's the derivative of 1? 0. What's the derivative of x to the 4? 4x to the third. And if you cross multiply, do all that work, you're going to get dx equals du over 4x to the third. How are we doing so far? Okay, now I want you to do the substitution part. If you're fast, you can move on, but let's just go nice and slow. Do the substitution part first and clean it up. Do the substitution part first and clean it up. Do the substitution part first and clean it up. do the substitution part, clean it up. Don't take the integral yet. Just do the substitution part and clean it up. Okay, if you did the substitutions correctly, this will be 1 over u times 4x to the third du over 4x to the third. Did everybody do the substitutions correctly? Any questions? Cross out becomes 1. I have the integral of 1 over u du. Stop there. Any questions so far? Okay, now if I was going to take the integral, which I have not yet, what should I do first? I'd rewrite it as u to the negative 1. And what's the integral of u to the negative 1? ln absolute value of u, don't forget your, and is that my final answer? Is that my final answer? Why? Instead of u, what am I going to put? And now, this is 3 examples. You're getting a little bit better. It's kind of like a little game. If you can figure out what, put the pieces in, everything cleans up nicely. Question?
So, hypothetical example would be like, if it's 1 over 4x and negative 1, if it was 1 over x to the first, and then you take the derivative of that, it'd still be 1 over x squared, correct?
I'll come talk to you.
Okay, yeah.
Write it down because
Gotcha.
I don't want to confuse this with that. All right. Are we good? So that's 3 down. We're feeling a little bit better? Now, I will tell you, is everybody comfortable with how we're doing it? I know it's a little bit long, but everybody comfortable with how we're doing it. The textbook does it a little differently. They have you decide what du is, they plug it in, and then magically they tell you to put some number there. I like this way. So you may notice that textbook's a little differently. So the next couple slides I'm going to skip. They do it, it's the same thing. They just do the order a little differently. They throw in a number, like, where'd the number come from? Well, you need the number to take care of the other number. I like doing it this way, okay? So if we're comfortable, I'm going to skip a couple slides. So again, if you're one of those that are following the slides, they're going to talk about differential dx. They're going to talk about if you took the derivative, how do you compensate for it? And we're just going to go straight for it, okay? So now that we've done a couple examples, I'm going to give you a little bit of time just to get a head start. So let's see how far you can take it on your own. Just give it a head start. I'm not asking you to do the whole thing, but just give it a head start. This is a little weird, but see if you can figure out what that u will be. Take the derivative. How does it help? I will go over it, don't worry. gave it a little try, you thought about it. We definitely know this is the harder one. We definitely know this is due substitution. What do you think u is going to be? X squared plus 2x plus 5. That whole thing is going to be u. Why? I don't know how to take the integral of stuff raised to the 7. If all of that was u to the 7, I can take care of that integral pretty quickly. Now, there's a little weirdness. We'll talk about it. You take the derivative with respect to x. What's the derivative? 2x plus 2. And again, we're not going to do the algebra. We know what it is. It's going to be dx equals du over 2x plus 2. Okay? So now that we're all together, any questions so far? See how far you can take it. 4 times now. All right, let's see how we're doing. So when I do the integral, this would be u to the 7, 2x plus 2. Dx is du over 2x plus 2. What ends up happening? 2x plus 2, 2x plus 2. I have the integral of u to the 7 du. And again, I'm going to warn you over and over again. That's not my final answer. I haven't taken the integral. Any questions so far? So this is going to be u to the 8 over 8. Don't forget your plus c. And then u is x squared plus 2x plus 5 over 8 plus c. Starting to see the pattern? We're going to do like 6 more. And after that, should you be really good at it? I hope. Or really good at waiting for me to go over it. One or the other. Question?
Maybe just jump from there to there. Because it's something you just add one.
As long as, but why? This is the why. This is the work behind it. And it's not always going to be like that. You're seeing some patterns, which is great. But this is the work behind it and why it works. But it doesn't always work like that. There are some, remember I told you they had those patterns. If you see those patterns, you can go straight to the answer. Yes. But this one always works. But good observation. Okay? So here's your next. And again, we're going to do a bunch. Because the more we do, the better we get at it. So that's what we just did. Next one. Okay? Sounds like from your reactions that this is getting easier. So how about you try to do it all on your own? Start to finish, give it a try. Again, if you're catching yourself that you're waiting for me to go over it, that means there's some problems. I'm just going over as many as we can go over in class to get you to understand it. And it will click. If you're not just copying along and really doing it, it will click. If you're just copying every example, it's not as bad. Okay, it's about 1 more minute. Okay, so again, after a while, it starts to click. What's u going to be? X cubed minus 5. When you take the derivative of u with respect to x, that's 3x squared. This will give me dx equals du over 3x squared. Questions there? And again, if you picked a different u, it won't work out. You'll have to back up, try it again. Sometimes that happens. When I do the substitutions, this is going to be u to the 4, 3x squared, du over 3x squared. Cross out, cross out. The integral of u to the 4 du. This is going to be u to the 5th over 5th plus c. So your final answer is x cubed minus 5 to the 5th over 5 plus c. Any questions? Which side? Oh, this means take the integral. Once you take it, you don't write it. So it reminds me, haven't taken the integral, haven't taken the integral, haven't taken the integral. Now I take it. So it is important. Good question. Okay? All right, so again, some of you guys are seeing the pattern, but pretty soon that pattern will go away. That's get a little harder. Questions on this one? Okay, try the next one. Got 1 more minute, see how we're doing. Okay, what's u going to be? X squared plus 5. The derivative of u with respect to x is 2x. Dx equals, du equals dx over 2x. Questions there? So we're going to have the integral of u to the 1/2 2x dx equals du, sorry about that, du over 2x. Cross out, the integral of u to the 1/2 du. Have I taken the integral yet? Nope. So again, you can put u to the 1.5 divided by 1.5. Don't forget your plus c. Or I'll put right side by side. If you did u to the 3 over 2 divided by 3 over 2 plus c, this would be 2/3. 1 divided by 3 over 2 is 2/3. X squared to the 3/2 plus c. Or you can just leave it as x squared plus 5 to the 1.5 divided by 1.5 plus c. But if you notice, 1 divided by 1.5 still gives you 2/3. However you want to write it. Okay? Questions there. Now, again and again and again and again, you're like, hey, it ends up being the same thing over and over again. Well, we're going to get a little harder. Any questions on this one?
Wait, yeah.
Yep, question.
How would you get the 2/3?
Okay, so you add 1, you get 1.5 over 1.5, right? So let's go to the calculator. 1 divided by 1.5, math, fraction, 2/3. Or 1 divided by 3 over 2, math, fraction, 2/3. However you want to do it. Questions on this one? All right. So here's the next one. And again, you have all the pieces now. You have everything you need.
Oh,
There's a little difference in this one. Nothing hard, nothing I haven't taught you. But that pattern, something changes to that pattern. You'll see as you work it out. Question?
if you left
With the 1.5,
Yeah, if you
that's
left
fine.
Okay, that's fine.
Same thing.
All right.
All the same. We have 4 more examples, then we'll do a word bubble. So something that seems super hard in the beginning, the more we do, the better we get at it. That's the power of practice. in that? All right, so what is u going to be? X to the third minus 5. So the derivative of u with respect to x is 3x squared. We know it's going to end up being dx equals du over 3x squared. Questions so far? When I do my substitutions, instead of x cubed minus 5, that's going to be u to the 4. I still have the x squared, and then dx is going to be du over 3x squared. Now, in this case, what happens? You can't do anything? What can you do? X squared and x squared go away. Sure, just like before. But what are you left with? You're left with a 3. Okay, no big deal. The 3 is there. That's why I like this method. The 3 is obvious. They're going to have a 3 up top, and they're going to say, multiply by 1/3. You're like, where'd the 1/3 come from? The 1/3 came from getting rid of the 3, da-da-da-da. This just says there's a 3 there. Okay, so this method, there's a 3. It's just part of it. Now, be careful, be careful. Have I taken the integral? No. And am I left with 3 or 1/3? Where's that 3?
The denominator.
So what am I left with? 1/3 u to the 4 du. Okay? So it's still simplified. It's exactly the same as what we've been doing. You just got to be careful that you put 1/3. Okay? Just be careful that you put 1/3. Are we okay? Questions so far? Have I taken the integral? No. So let's take the integral. What happens to the 1/3? What's the integral of u to the 4? Don't forget your. What do you end up getting? 1/15 u to the 5th plus c. Is that a final answer? What's the final answer? 1/15 instead of u, what am I going to put? X cubed minus 5 plus c. Stop there. The only thing that happened was the 3 was left over. It's okay. It's the same process, same everything. The x squared divided by x squared is 1. Everything worked out. Question?
Would it be okay if you left it as u to the 5th over 15?
Yeah, same thing. Okay? Any questions on this one? Don't see this different. It's really the same that we've been doing. It's the same. Okay? Here's another one. And if a number comes up, it's okay. It's the same. So try this one. The more we do, the better we'll get at it. Just takes practice. see how we're doing. What's u going to be? 4x to the third. Du over dx is 12x squared. Dx equals du over 12x squared. Questions on that side? So when I do the substitution, I don't have anything for the x squared. This will be e to the u du over 12x squared. Let me stop there a second. Any questions? Questions? X squared. I have not taken the integral. What am I left with? 1 over 12, e to the u du. The 1 over 12 stays. What's the integral of e to the u? E to the u, don't forget your plus c. Your final answer is 1 over 12 e to the 4x to the third plus c. Okay? Hopefully that 12's not messing us up. Question?
So trying to take the
Integral?
of e to u is just e to the u.
Yeah, that's one of the special cases. Integral of e to the u is e to the u, integral of e to the x is e to the x, integral of e to the t, doesn't matter what the letter is. It's the same.
All right, cool.
Questions on this one? All right, some of you are like really getting it, some of you may be a little confused. There's 2 left, then we'll do a word problem. Do you want both of them at the same time, or do you want one at a time? Same time. All right. So here's one of them. Here's the other. I'll make this pretty in a second. Oh, actually, no. No, let me not do that. There's one I need to explain. So let's just do what I want. It would be a little harder if I gave you this the last one. Let's just stick with this one. The last one, I need to give you a little more explanation. One more minute. Okay, so this is going to be u equals what? 5 minus 2x squared. Derivative of u with respect to x is minus 4x. So dx equals du over negative 4x. Don't forget that negative, be careful. When we do the integral, this will be x over u to the 5th du over negative 4x. Questions there? X, what am I left with? What number am I left with in front? Negative 1/4, and then u to the negative 5. Now, this is what I'm really concerned about. This takes a lot of work. Cross out, clean it up, Have I taken the integral? No. So if this was like a 10-point problem, let's say, you only have done half of it, if that, but you haven't taken the integral in an integral problem. Question?
Could you just multiply the -4 with the denominators together? Does that work like that?
Denominators together.
No, you do the 1 over u to the 5th times 1 to the -4. I mean, you know what?
Will you still get this in the end? Or you're not talking about multiplying these, are you?
That's what I'm saying.
No. This is an exponent, that's a number. Two totally different things.
Oh.
Okay? Then, at this point, the negative 1/4 will say, be careful, what are you going to get? U to the -4 over -4. Don't forget your plus c. And again, don't let the negatives throw you off and all that. You're going to get positive 1 over 16 u to the 4 plus c. And then to finish it off, 1 over 16 u is 5 minus 2x squared to the 4 plus c. Now again, if you made a little mistake, it's okay. Try to figure out where it was. Was it a little mistake? Did we just get a little confused? What happened? Okay? Questions? Now, take a breather. We just did, I don't even know how many problems. We just did a ton of them. Okay? But when I did the first one, you're like, what the heck is this? And now you're like, I can do this all day. Then a week later, you'll forget it all. Okay? So we have to practice this, but we didn't do one. We did like, I don't even know, like 10. We just did 10 examples. Are we okay? Any questions at this point? Now, one last word problem, and we're done. One weird one, a word problem, and we're done. Okay? First of all, what am I doing? I'm putting a bunch of stars. Okay? The reason why I'm putting a bunch of stars, this is a weird one. This is a weird one. This is a weird one. How do you know it's weird? It's got a bunch of stars. Okay? So this is the special case. It's different than the last 10 that we've done. We're going to do it together, and we're going to do it slowly. Okay? So, first of all, is this a straightforward integral, or is this a u substitution? It's going to be a u substitution. Why? I got two things being multiplied. I got stuff raised to a number. It's going to be u substitution. And let's totally do it together. What's u going to be? X plus 6. Perfect. Question so far. Then, derivative of u with respect to x. What's the derivative of all that? 1. Cross multiply. Dx equals du. So you're like, okay, that's a little weird. but so far not bad. We good so far? Now, we go in for our substitution. I don't have anything for x. That becomes u to the 8. That becomes du. And then we're like, wait a minute. All of the examples we've done, all 10 of them or however many we did, usually there's an x on the bottom. The x on the bottom crosses out with the x. Then we just fly through the problem. Uh-oh. My little niece used to say that all the time. Now she's too old. When she was little, she said, uh-oh. Doesn't work out. It's not crossing out. So do we give up? No. You're like, yes, we give up. No, we don't give up. Okay? We don't give up because the goal is to turn everything into u. The goal is to turn everything into u. I can still do that. Okay? So again, stars, weird. Let's back up just a little bit. Do you see how we have u equals x plus 6? Let's examine that a little bit. U equals x plus 6. Couldn't I subtract 6, and say x equals u minus 6? Couldn't I easily just move that over and say x equals u minus 6? And your question would be, why would I do that? Well, x equals u minus 6. I can take that and plug it in for x. So I'm going to have the integral of u minus 6, u to the 8 du. I'm going to stop there a second because it's weird. It's different. But the goal has always been today to get everything in terms of u. Everything in terms of u. And I just did that. Then you're going to tell me, but it's still a hard problem. Isn't it still a hard one? And I'm going to say, like I've said all semester, algebra, algebra, algebra. Look at this. Can I clean it up? Can I clean that up? Can I distribute this? And what would I end up getting? U to the 9 minus 6 u to the 8 du. Can I take the integral? Yes. Okay? So it's still possible. It's still possible. You just have that extra step. When the x or the x squared or the x to the third, whatever it is, when the x variable doesn't cross out, can you still do it? And the answer is yes, if it all works out, of course. But you have to go back to u equals x plus 6, x equals u minus 6, then go back. And I'll leave you a couple minutes, maybe 2 minutes. Go ahead and take the integral. Okay? But as you're doing that, take a minute. It's weird. I put a bunch of stars by it. It's a weird example. Okay, when you take the integral, this is going to be u to the 10 over 10. The 6 stays, u to the 9 over 9 plus c. Your final answer will be x plus 6 raised to the 10 over 10 minus 6, x plus 6 to the 9 over 9 plus c. I would clean it up just a little bit more. I'd probably say 1 over 10, x plus 6 to the 10, or you could leave it the way it was. But this simplifies to 2/3, x plus 6 raised to the 9 plus c. Okay? But again, we put stars by it because the x didn't cancel. But if the x doesn't cancel on a special one, that's how we take care of it. Okay? And after all these million examples that we did today, we have one last word problem and we're done. Okay? But you definitely got your money's worth today. We did a ton of examples. Not one, but a ton. Okay, so here's our last example, and because we're running a little low on time, I'll keep it simple for you. A company finds that the marginal price, derivative of price, at a supply level of X boxes of baby shampoos per week is given by this. So you're given a derivative, and you want to work backwards. Find the price supply equation for the distributor of the shampoo who is willing to pay a supply of 75 bottles per week at a price of $1.60 per bottle. That's going to help us find that. So here's our bottom line. Okay? You're going to, again, we're given a derivative. So to work backwards, we take the integral of 300 over 3x plus 25 squared dx, which means you're going to have to do u substitution. When you take the integral, you're going to have a plus c. So to take care of the plus c, it's given that when the price is 75, actually no. When the supply, when X is 75, the price is $1.60. Then you can find what C is. Okay? So it will be a U substitution. It's actually going to be probably the nicest U substitution we've done. But then we're going to have that plus C. So to find out the plus C, just like we did with section 5.1, I have to give you something. Now again, this is U substitution, but you're not going to like it because it's actually easier than the ones we've done. You want the hard ones from now on. Remember, with the integration, you always have that plus C. So you have to be given something to find that plus C. Everything builds. 5.2 builds off 5.1. 5.1 builds off all the other stuff we've learned. Okay, so for this one, what is U going to be? 3x plus 25 is what U going to be. When you take the derivative of U with respect to x, what's the derivative of 3x? 3. And that's it. Cross multiply, do all your thing. Dx equals du over 3. So did we do the U substitution correctly? Then it's going to be the integral of 300 over u squared du over 3. Let's stop there for a second. Did everybody get that far? Now let's clean it up. I haven't taken the integral. What's 300 divided by 3? 100. The u2 moves up to u negative 2 du. Have I taken the integral? No. What happens to the 100 in front? Stays in front. What's the integral of u to the negative 2? U negative 1 divided by negative 1. Don't forget your plus c. This will leave me with negative 100 over u plus c, which would be negative 100 over u, which is 3x plus 25 plus c. So let's stop and make sure we did the u substitution correctly. Did we do the u substitution correctly? Again, because it's easier, sometimes we get lost. Now, in order to figure out what C is, then we have to be given something. We are. We're given that the price is $1.60 when X, which is supply, is 75. So that would be $1.60 equals negative 100 over 250 plus C. That's $1.60 equals negative 0.4 plus C. Add 0.4, add 0.4, C equals 2. So my final answer is negative 100 over 3x plus 25 plus 2. Okay.